Alrighty, folks, in the last video I shared with you guys, I did a trend where creators were, listing their cameras that they like, dislike, what camera they think is overrated, underrated, and many more. But in today's video, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time with camera lenses. What are lenses that I dislike, like, what I think are overrated, underrated, and many more. So why don't we just go ahead and get started and start with the lens that I dislike. And truth be told, there aren't many lenses that I dislike. There are a few not for me lenses, for sure. But if I were to put a lens in this category, I think it would have to be the Fujifilm XF 18mm f1.4. When I initially bought the lens a few years back, I was really excited for it. I was thinking, oh, this is the new replacement for the XF 16mm f1.4. And I really enjoyed that lens, but something about having that extra 2mm I wasn't a fan of. It was a focal length that I really couldn't get into. The images that I got were incredibly sharp when I was using it with my Fujifilm XS10. But that's all there was to it. Now, I wouldn't mind giving this lens another chance in the future because as time goes on, your taste change, your style changes, and maybe I couldn't see the appeal back then when the lens was released, but perhaps I could see it now that I live in Europe and now that I'm traveling around Europe more. I do need something wide and fast. Pause. So yeah, if I were to put a lens in this category, it would be this lens right here. But it should really be a not for me category instead of a lens that I dislike category, if you know what I mean. A lens that I think is overrated is the XF 50mm f1.0. It's big, it's overpriced, and the autofocusing just felt just clunky at times. I shot with the 56mm f1.2 a lot back then, and to go from the f1.2 to f1.0, it didn't seem like a big step for me. Yes, it gathers a little bit more light if you need it, but I didn't need it. I just thought the f1.2 was plenty. I also thought that the shallow depth of field from f1.2 to f1.0 wasn't a huge difference as well. This is where my line of thought was going. I reviewed this lens several years back, so if you want to see that video, I'll leave the link to it down in the description, but my thoughts hasn't changed since. I honestly think for the money you're paying, you should get like the XF 56mm f1.2 lens or even the XF 90mm f2 lens. Any third-party lenses that came out in the past couple of years. Third-party Chinese lenses have come a long way since their manual focusing lens days. They have moved on to making legit autofocusing lens with good optical quality. These lenses perform just as good as native lenses when it comes to image quality, and they're doing it at a fraction of a cost that you would pay for a native lens. So just think about that. So who's to say in the next 2 to 5 years where this journey might take them, are we going to see third-party lenses get as good as native lenses with good build quality, good image quality, and as well good autofocusing, but at a much more reasonable price? Just take a look at some of these lenses that came out in the past couple of years. The Viltrox 135mm f1.8 has gotten glowing reviews. It's a lens that I haven't tried yet, but it's already exciting to see. People are comparing it to a G Master lens. That Viltrox lens is coming in at $899. The Sony 135mm G Master is coming in at $2,100. There's also the Siri Aurora 85mm f1.4. I've tested this lens and I thought the image quality and the build quality of this lens is amazing. The build quality reminds me of my 50mm f1.4 G Master. It sort of feels like a high quality plastic. It has such a beautiful rendering to the image, and I haven't shot with like the 85 G Master yet, so I cannot say for sure, but I know for certain that this lens is really good. There's not many compromises except for the autofocusing not being as good as the G Master lenses. This is why I say give it like 2 to 5 years and they'll have this figured out eventually. Laowa's doing great things with their anamorphic lenses, their cine lenses. 7 Artisans has some good autofocusing lenses that came out, and as well as cine lenses. TD Artisan is making more unique lenses with swirly bokeh lens, bubble bokeh lens. They also have autofocusing lenses that I've tested, and at this point, they all provide you with good image quality and some unique image quality. They're the only ones that I feel are innovating. They're giving us some unique focal ranges, and another example of that is the TT Artisan's 75mm f2 lens, which I think is a unique lens. Why hasn't anyone made that focal length yet? This is a full frame lens at f2 for a couple of $100. I've tested it, and let me tell you, the image quality outperforms the price of this lens. It's really good for a $200 autofocusing lens. Third lens is the Mikey 56mm f1.4. It's another lens that I really enjoy using for the Fujifilm X mount because it's also a couple of $100. It takes some nice and sharp images comparable to what you find in the Fujifilm XF 56mm f1.2 WR lens. And that lens is around $1,000. Gotrox also has these compact travel lenses that is called the Air series, where they make lenses that comes in f1.7 aperture. So far they came out with a 56mm f1.7 and as well the 35mm f1.7, which is due to be out soon. And I've tested these lenses as well, and again, they have some great image quality. It's sharp, it's light for travel, and it doesn't weigh you down at all. So there's something to be said about, you know, third-party lenses. In the next several years, native lenses need to make interesting lenses to keep things interesting. Otherwise, I feel as though the third-party lenses are coming for their spot. These lenses are getting good already, and I cannot wait to see where they go next. There's a lot of native-only shooters out there, native lens-only shooters out there, and you know, I get it. You guys are too cool for third-party lenses. If you have the budget to get the native, don't worry about it. You guys are good. I had my fair share of good native lenses as well. But for the rest of the people who can't afford those high-end native glass, I recommend you guys giving third-party lenses a shot. They're real good, and that's why I still think they're a bit underrated. They don't get the respect they deserve because you know, they're Chinese brands. Moving on. You know, we're doing things a bit interesting here. Instead of giving you the answers I've given you in other videos similar to this format, it's usually like a Fujifilm lens, and that's never going to change. But over the past couple of years, I've tested more Sony E-mount lenses as well because I do shoot with Sony cameras. And the lens that I really like currently that I haven't mentioned enough in any of my videos is the Sigma 24-70mm f2.8 DGDN Mark II lens for the Sony E-mount. This is my first full-frame 24-70mm lens that I've ever owned, and so far it has delivered on everything. The performance on this lens is really good, the image quality, the autofocusing with my Sony a7C II. It's been an amazing combo. I was really surprised by the size of this lens because for a full-frame zoom lens, I honestly thought it was going to be a bit bigger. Pause. But it's quite manageable. Honestly, when compared to the APS-C counterpart, it will look huge. But I have zero issues with the weight so far. Now, the reason why I like this lens is because of its versatility and how incredibly sharp this lens is. It's stupidly sharp. And because I've been using so many prime lenses, I forgot how nice it was just to use a zoom lens instead of, you know, zooming in with my feet. This is my first full frame zoom lens, and I couldn't be happier with my purchase. It's also a lens that I started using more to capture my B-roll. And you know, the close focusing distance you get at 24mm is wild. This lens is incredible. Autofocusing is quick, image quality sharp, the bokeh is just smooth. The rendering of it is something I really love. And I've been getting some lovely images with this lens as well, and I've been really happy with this lens. And it's quite expensive since there are so many alternatives now. Like, you know, you got the Sigma 50mm f1.4 Art series lens, and you got the Sigma 50mm f2 as well, and then you got, you know, the Zeiss lens that I'm sure there's plenty of more that I haven't heard about. But the reason why I chose this lens is because I really love the performance of the G Master series lens, so I wanted to pay for that quality again. And you already know is the XF 23mm f1.4 WR-LM. This lens is great. I think it pairs well on my Fujifilm XS20. It's an amazing combo, and I know people want an even more compact, slim setup, perhaps like a pancake lens with the Fujifilm XS20, but I don't mind the lens to be a bit bigger if it gives me a better image quality. And for me, at least in the Fujifilm X mount system right now, if I didn't have this channel where I was able to test so many camera gear, this would be the lens that I stick on my camera. This would be the lens that I stick on for my everyday camera. The lens that I dream of having, of course, is the Nikon Z 135mm f1.8 Plena. Obviously, I've never tried it before, but from the videos that I've seen, the image quality of this lens looks incredible. Now that I have the Nikon Z8, I want to experiment with the Nikon Z lenses, and hopefully I get the chance to test this lens out in the future. A lens that I really like on my Fujifilm is the XF 90mm f2. I really like that focal length. I really love how it compresses that background and how smooth that bokeh was. And I just see the Plena being the same, but just bigger and more expensive. So one day, maybe one day I'll get there. I honestly want Fujifilm to make the XF 33mm or the 35mm f1.0. I remember they had a prototype back then, but they thought it was too big, so they opted to make the 50mm f1.0 instead. It would be such a flex to get a 35mm lens, an f1.0 with autofocusing, but the autofocusing has to be good. It has to have linear motors inside. It has to be able to rack focus smoothly as well, because some people do use Fujifilm cameras to make videos, so let's not forget about them now. So this would be an interesting lens for sure if they were to make one. The lens that I regret selling is the XF 90mm f2. This lens is so good, and every time I look back at my old photos shot with this lens, I'm just so amazed by the image. The sharpness, the look, the character of it just reminds me so much of a still from a movie. And people are always asking me which lens should you get, the 56 or the 90mm. My answer to that is, if you know you have the room to operate, the 90mm f2 is the lens that I would choose. But because this focal length is so tight, it makes it not as versatile as the 56mm lens. And that's the reason why I sold it. It was getting used less and less, and I just didn't have the space to operate that lens. Now that I'm shooting more than just Fuji, there's a lot more lenses that I would like to try, and hopefully I'm able to try them all in the future. But for the Fujifilm side, I would like to try the Fujifilm XF 16 to 55mm f2.8 Mark II. I want to see what the fuss is about to see if it's any good. For Sony lenses, I would like to try some more of their G Master lenses. One in particular is the 135mm f1.8 G Master lens, and as well as their 85mm f1.4 Mark II G Master lens as well. Those look incredible. I also want to try like the Sigma 50mm f1.2 art lens, the 35mm f1.2 art, and as well as the 50mm f1.2 art, and as well the 70 to 200mm Sigma art lens for the Sony E-mounts. So lots to try. For the Nikon, I really want to try out a lot of their lenses. You got the Nikon 50mm f1.2 Z mount. That thing looks heavy as fuck and is expensive as fuck as well. The 85mm f1.2Z and as well the Nikon Plena lens. And I also want to try the 35mm and the 50mm f1.4Z lenses as well. Again, there's just so many lenses that I want to test out for my curiosity's sake, and hopefully I get to test them out in the future and report back to you guys with my experience. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, consider subscribing and spreading that holiday joy around for me. And I'm going to put this back to you guys. Let me know what your lists are. What lens do you like, dislike? What do you think is overrated, underrated, and so on? Write your list down below. Don't forget to leave me a like as well, and thanks so much.